like this. We keep loving each other like this. We keep going out and battling like this. I promise you, bro. I promise you, bro. It's the top and we ain't stopping. Yes, sir. And we ain't stopping. Yes, sir. Family on me. Does on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Strip, sack, touchdown. Hit him up, hit him up, hit him up, go. Strip, sack, touchdown. Hit him up, hit him up, hit him up, go. Strip, sack, touchdown. Hit him up, hit him up, hit him up, go. Strip, sack, touchdown. Hit him up, hit him up, hit him up, go. All these sacks, the QB scared of dropping back. Get him in, go attack. From the kickoff to the final snap. We up peak, we in the city. LTI turned up, baby, tune in with me. UCF Jag, the real blood. All you need to know right here, I'm talking real loud update. Start Adam, Chef, Kenny Jakes. Till it really on point, no pump face. PCs to the house, new beat, drop it now. YouTube for my dead news, then my go-to, never take down. What's in it, got nothing on it. Doubt my squad, put something on it. Tell her AC how we run it. Get the ring fitted, cause we coming forward. Strip, sack, touchdown. I better run now. It's 4 down, go punt now. Cut through Duval, get stunned down. Yeah. Strip, sack, touchdown. Hit him up, hit him up, hit him up, go. Strip, sack, touchdown. Hit him up, hit him up, hit him up, go. Strip, sack, touchdown. Hit him up, hit him up, hit him up, go. Strip, sack, touchdown. Hit him up, hit him up, hit him up, go.
Touchdown! DJ Chark, the over-the-shoulder grab.
Mike Leach basically said, hey, you want to lead the country in passing? Minshew, deep ball, separation, DJ Chark. Chark with a stiff arm on board, and Chark is still going. Here's J.J. Watt. Minshew down the sideline.
And what is going on, everybody? Welcome back into another UCF Jaguar live stream. It is Thursday, April 21st, 2022, and we are officially a week away from the NFL draft. Honestly, my favorite sporting event of the year. It's just something different, man. We get a lot of football games, but we only really get one draft per year. So definitely looking forward to that. And shout out to Percy Mack. He's the one that does that, that did that intro. So if you guys want the full link to the Spotify, I'll put it down in the comments. I couldn't save it in the actual YouTube description for some reason, so I'll pin it in the comment section after this. But with all that said, I do have my guest, Jordan Lugo, joining me. What's going on, Jordan?
UCF Jaguar. Excited to be here 1 week out. Or should I be calling you Nighthawk?
Nighthawk? Yeah, shout out to Cameron Wallace for that thumbnail. Once I saw that, man, I was cracking up.
Yeah, you can call me Dragon.
I'll call you Dragon, and you call me Nighthawk.
Let's do it.
All right. So, welcome, Jordan. I do got to ask you: where does the NFL draft rank when it comes to NFL days for you? Like, is your favorite NFL day like the first Sunday of the regular season? Do you like the Super Bowl? Do you like first week of the playoffs? What's your favorite NFL event?
I mean, for people that have been fans of the Jaguars, covering the Jaguars, it has to be the draft, right? Because it's that and free agency. Like, that's when you have hope. That's when you have excitement. That's when the fans are most engaged. But when you look back at 2017, and obviously you and I were both young in like 05 and 07 when the Jaguars were making the playoffs, but I can remember that, but I was a child at the time, or I was in high school at the time. But yeah, when you look at 2017, that was a lot of fun too, right? Those playoff games were fun. The games down the stretch that season. I would say I enjoy game day when the team is competitive just as much as draft day. But over the last 5+ years, especially, draft day has been the day, really, for the Jaguars.
Absolutely. So before I get into all that, man, I made a mess on Twitter today. Oh my gosh. I got some insight and I put it out there letting people know kind of what I heard, and I got completely blasted for it. Oh my God. And when it comes to the source, I'll tell you guys everything that happened. When it comes to the source is very believable to me. And if there's anything I regret, it's definitely the way I worded the tweet, if anything. And I think a lot of people I mean, you can ask Adam Schefter a couple weeks ago. I mean, wording is everything, nowadays. And I probably worded it a little wrong, but here's the information I got for everybody that is wondering. So I get a call today. While I'm working from home, working remote, I get a call from someone that I've known pretty much my whole life. He is a very high-ranking person in his company, like I think like an executive or something like that. And when I saw the phone ring, I was like, what is this about? And I honestly, I thought he was going to be offering me some kind of like position in his company or something. I was really confused. So I answered the phone. We shot the shit for a little bit, and he said, look, man, like, I know you're a big Jaguar fan. And keep in mind, this guy that is talking to me is not a Jaguar fan. He's a fan of sports, but he has no connection to the Jaguars. He's not in the Jaguars building. But he said, look, like, I got some information that like I've got to share with you. And I'm gonna let you guys know all this, and obviously take it with a grain of salt. This is what he told me, and he basically told me that that he has a close friend that is basically also very high ranking in his company. He's right below basically the CEO or whoever leads the company. I won't give out what the name or any information like that is, but he says that basically he's been told that Shad Khan does not want to be the Jaguars owner anymore. And a big reason for that is because Shad Khan is livid right now. He told me that when Shad Khan bought the team in 2012, he basically bought it thinking that down the line, like way down the line, like 10, 15, 20 years down the line, he was going to be able to relocate the team to London. And recently the NFL, at the time, it was basically whispered around NFL circles that was going to happen. I mean, you go back 10 years ago, you'll see the big kind of guys out there like Jason Lockenfor literally said, the Jaguars book it. In 8 years, they will be in London. And, it was kind of common knowledge that was going to happen. But with the recent shift where, because back in the day, it was just like they were sending a game or two out to London every year. And it became a bigger thing. More teams started playing in London. And then now more teams are playing all over really Europe. I mean, you've had Germany, you've had even, Tottenham, Spur, or whatever it's like another city. And you've had just different places around Europe, and even like Mexico City, you're having games kind of played all over. And then they realized that, I guess the NFL realized that, look, it's not going to be sustainable to actually move a team over there full time. And apparently that like pissed Shad Khan off. And the guy that basically talked to me, he says that the guy, let me pull up the text real quick. I talked to him on the phone, but I texted him not too long ago. But he basically said that they're trying to actively put together a buyers group. So basically, get a bunch of people together, group it up, and I guess, fund it that way. And I don't know. That's what he told me. And then I said, look, like, would I be able to share this? Because I'm sure some people would want to know. And he says, yeah, I mean, feel free to. So I shared it. The wording probably wasn't great. People think that I'm like clout chasing. People think that I really care about my Twitter followers, or that I desperately need people over to my YouTube channel, to help me become famous. That's not me, guys. You guys know me. I'm not clickbait. Jordan promotes my videos on Ginjag more than I promote on my own Twitter account. Like, YouTube, it definitely helps me pay my mortgage. It's a huge part of my life. Twitter, very small part of my life. If my Twitter was gone tomorrow, it'd be whatever. So that's what I heard. I relayed it out. I texted him again. I said, are you pretty sure? He says, look, I mean, and the guy told me, he says, that while he can't be certainly positive, the person that he spoke to seems to be pretty positive about it. So that's what I asked him, if he thinks the team will stay in Jacksonville. He said that he has basically intentions to keep the team in Jacksonville. And that's what I heard. That is the gist of it. So, that's the information I have to spill. And, regret that I even shared it. If I get any information like that in the future, I'm just going to keep it on the YouTube channel. I don't need to be ganged up on Twitter. It doesn't, honestly, selling the Jaguars doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me right now with everything going on. But, that's what I heard.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, obviously, it seems like nothing's set in stone at this point, but on the one hand, it seems like there's a lot going on with the Jaguars, with current projects in Jacksonville, On the other hand, you can look at it and be like, well, Shad Khan has been a bit of an absentee owner for a lot of his tenure. It has not gone well since he purchased the Jaguars. One playoff appearance, one season where you were competitive in a decade. So you could obviously understand why perhaps he wouldn't be too thrilled with how things have gone. And if his plan was to move the team and now that's being thwarted or whatever is going on, yeah, you could understand that. Obviously, I don't know anything beyond what you know. And it's interesting to say the very least, but hopefully for the fans of the Jaguars locally, the team will be in Jacksonville for a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I know when it comes to Shad Khan, when he originally bought this team, I think he thought it would go a lot different. I mean, he had all the intent. I think he had the intentions of, okay, I buy the team, I hire a good GM, hire a good head coach, everything's going to be fine. But unfortunately for him, the Jaguars have been a pretty profitable investment, but it's been kind of a pain in the ass. I mean, he's been, having to hire different guys. There's been different weird things going on in the building. His public perception is bad. I mean, and even now, he is trying to get more involved. He's in the building more. And obviously, I put out the clip. I even made a video about what he said at the combine where he said, what did we he was at the combine, why are we here? What are we going to figure out here that we can't figure out from watching the tape? And it basically showed to me that, look, this is probably his first combine he's ever been to. So he's trying to get more involved in all this, but does he really want to be does he want to be an owner that's hands-on and that's around a lot? Does he love football that much? I don't know. One thing I know, everybody talks about, does he like winning, or does he really care about winning? I think he cares about winning, but the real measure of how big of a fan you are is how pissed off you get when you lose. You know what I mean? When you look at the Jaguars week 18 win against the Colts, Jim Irsay was livid. He was pissed. He was posting on Twitter. He was berating his coaching staff. It really stuck with him he was a diehard fan. You switch positions. If Shad Khan were in that spot, how much would that really affect him? Would he really be going through sleepless nights and all that stuff? I don't think he would be. So I don't know with this. I mean, I that's my information. I shared it out there. Take what you want with it. I'm just a guy on Twitter. Take it with a grain of salt. I'm not doing it for clout, not doing it to be famous. Just putting out what I saw.
Yeah. And I think you probably want an owner who intensity-wise is somewhere in between Shad Khan and Jim Irsay.
Yeah.
Irsay is a little off the rails himself. But at least he's passionate. You can't take that away from him.
Absolutely. And I mean, Shad Khan, if he just knew how to hire the right guys, he'd be a great owner because he's going to let the guys do their job. He's going to give them space and all that. But, so far the record speaks for itself. And, we'll just have to kind of see how it plays off. So, moving on from that, we're going to get into some draft talk, but hold on. The Jaguars hired news today came out that the Jaguars are primed to hire an assistant GM. My notepad is down there. Give me 2 seconds. His name is Ethan Waugh. How do you say his last name?
I believe that's correct. I'm not sure. I haven't heard it pronounced, but I don't know how else you would pronounce that.
Yeah, not everybody has names like Dalton D and Jordan DeLuca. That's just so delightful to be able to pronounce. But he's a longtime 49ers
My name's
exec.
Dragon. I don't know what you're talking
about. Oh, yeah. My name's Nighthawk. Okay. So a little bit about this guy. He's expected to become the Jaguars' assistant GM after the NFL draft. He has spent 17 seasons with the 49ers, worked with Trent Baalke from 2005 to 2016 as they both kind of moved up the ranks over there. And the big thing about this one is that after the Jaguars obviously fired Urban Meyer, we thought the Jaguars were going to fire Trent Baalke. They did not. Once they hired Doug Peterson, Shad Khan said to the public, said to the media in that terrible press conference he had that they were going to hire an EVP. They put in a request to hire an EVP. Now, where has that gone? It was silent for a while. We didn't really hear a lot come out. And then eventually we hear from the blue check marks that the Jaguars are holding off the hire of an executive vice president of football operations. And instead, now it looks like instead of putting somebody over Trent Baalke, they have put somebody under Trent Baalke. And with that said, Trent Baalke is the winner of Survivor. He can outduel, outplay, outlast everybody. And for some reason, he's like a cat with 9 lives. He just doesn't go away. So I guess, what are your initial thoughts about this move?
Well, yeah, I can understand why fans would be irritated thinking you're an EVP that would kind of oversee what Trent Baalke is doing and kind of have final say. And then you're getting someone who, if you want to look at it pessimistically, yeah, he's someone that worked with Trent Baalke, worked under Trent Baalke for about a decade. And you could look at it like, oh, Baalke's just bringing in his guy. He's insulating himself with more people that are on his team. So you could look at it that way, but I think I'm choosing to look at it from more of a, what can Ethan Waugh bring to the Jaguars? I think adding someone to the front office is a positive thing in terms of a guy who has been around a winning organization over the last half decade, and they had a lot of success even in Trent Baalke's early run there. Might not have been Baalke's players that were making the biggest impact. Some of them were, certainly Aldon Smith over those first couple of years, and Colin Kaepernick and some other guys. But the point is, I think Ethan Waugh is a guy that's well respected around the league. You've seen a lot of outpouring of praise and excitement for him getting the assistant GM job. If it all does go through, it looks like it'll be after the draft, which makes sense. He's been working on the draft from a 49ers perspective. The Jaguars guys have been doing their thing all off season and back into the 2021 season. So you get him in here after the draft is over. That makes a lot of sense. And I just think adding more brain power to the front office is good. I don't necessarily think this is the only move they're going to make in terms of doing that, in terms of putting more brain power into that front office. But for now, I can understand if you're not thrilled with it, but I would say give this guy a shot to help the team out and see what happens during the draft and in 2022. A lot of people are highly critical of Baalke, myself included. But if you look at his draft in 2022, I think a lot that he did was kind of questioned by the media, questioned by people like myself. And most of those picks are looking pretty good at this point, moving into year 2. So let's see what they can do in 2022. Let's see what they can do next week and move forward from there.
Yeah, and one good thing about this guy is, when you hire Trent Baalke, everybody has all the most negative things to say about him. However, this guy is actually really well respected around the league. Fans are disappointed to have him leave. So, it looks like, from the surface, they're bringing in a guy that is, pretty good. And also, they're bringing in a guy that Trent Baalke actually worked with and had a good relationship with.
There you go.
That one, it's hard to find guys that Baalke has worked with that he's had good relationships with. So we did get that in. So that is obviously pretty good. So, with that said, obviously we're going to keep monitoring that. That's not the, biggest news as of right now. Probably after the draft, once he gets hired on, we'll do probably a deeper dive into him. But last thing I want to talk about before I really get into this draft is Deebo Samuel once out of San Francisco, and it's been a weird offseason for wide receivers. Obviously Tyreek Hill traded, Devontae Adams traded, Amari Cooper traded, but now you're seeing guys that are on their rookie contracts that are wanting out. I saw Terry McLaurin might want out. AJ Brown is trying to play hardball, and now Deebo Samuel apparently does not want anything to do with the 49ers right now. And it's interesting because he doesn't want to be used in that wide back position, that he doesn't want to be getting all these running back carries. And it's interesting because it seemed like he really embraced that role last year and he loved that role. Wide receivers love getting the ball, but it almost feels like now that the offseason has happened, he's been talking to, I guess some business people and some, smart guys around the league that say, look, you don't want to be doing this because your shelf life is going to be smaller. You're not going to be able to make as much money. And it's almost like he's thinking, whoa, I guess that's true. Maybe I shouldn't be taking as much impact. I guess at least that's what I haven't heard anywhere. That's just my perspective. What are some of your takes on that?
I think it's the shelf life, but I think it's also like, well, if you're a running back slash wide receiver, contract wise, our team's going to be willing to give you as much money because they're going to be making the argument, well, half your touches are coming out of the backfield. How do we pay you? Because running backs don't get paid, right? Um, and then also, not only from his perspective in terms of shelf life, but teams could be looking at the shelf life and be worried about that as well for the contract negotiations. So I understand why he would want to be used in more of a wide receiver role from a business perspective, from a money perspective. But gosh, he is exciting as hell, getting the ball out of the backfield. And let's be honest, he doesn't get hit all that often, big hits. Like, this is a guy that is incredibly fast, explosive, has good contact balance. A lot of tackles just kind of bounce right off of him. He's moving so quick. And the 49ers, he's not going to find a better situation for wide receivers and tight ends blocking for him, for Trent Williams getting out in space and just devouring defensive backs and linebackers. So I think be careful what you wish for. Obviously, this could just be a negotiation tactic. I would not be surprised if he sticks around in San Francisco. It does seem like he's drawn a hard line at this point, but I think he is better. He's good for the 49ers. The 49ers are good for him. He's going to deserve a bag wherever he goes. He is that talented. But would I be shocked if he goes to a lesser team and they're not able to use him the same way or to the same level of effectiveness that the 49ers have been able to? I would not be shocked by that at all. And it looks like I think the Texans and Jets have been in on that. So could be joining the division, joining a team that the Jaguars haven't beaten in a long time. So that's a little scary if you're a Jags fan.
Yeah, I mean, 8 straight losses to the Texans. That's pretty bad. But and it's interesting, the wide receivers, because like it seems like they're all going from really, really good places to places that might not be as good. I mean, Devontae Adams, he's leaving Aaron Rodgers. That connection was lethal. Obviously, Derek Carr is a pretty good quarterback, and but I just can't see anything becoming a better relationship than Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. And Tyreek Hill, I mean, he was with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes in that offense. I mean, what's it going to look like when he's with the guy like like Tua? I mean, the big thing is the deep ball where Tyreek Hill does his stuff, and also he can take a quick slant, 70 yards to the house. But
I think that was a calculated bet by the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And by the Packers to a certain extent. They have to pay their quarterbacks. They're not on rookie deals like Trevor Lawrence. The Jaguars and some other teams like the Dolphins, for example, are in a good position to pay a wide receiver top dollar. The Chiefs kind of said, let's see what we can get draft capital wise and kind of try to retool this offense, reload, and get cheaper and still support Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. And and one thing I like about Miami is it's like they're putting all the pieces in place to where if Tua doesn't succeed, it's Tua's fault. They can't come up with the excuse, oh, he has no weapons, he doesn't have a running back, he doesn't have an offensive line. They got Tron Armstead, like Tyreek Hill, they brought Gesicki back. They drafted Jalen Waddle last year, so they are primed and ready to try to make a playoff run in the daunting AFC, which is scary because they did all this stuff and they might only be the third best team in the AFC East right now. So a lot to look at. Do you think I don't think there's any chance Deebo goes to Jacksonville. I don't know what you think about that.
No, I don't think the Jaguars are going to invest in their wide receiver core with any more money, any more big money at this point. They brought in Marvin Jones last year. They brought in Christian Kirk and Zay Jones this year. They have Laviska Shenault, Jamal Agnew, Laquan Treadwell. I think they will draft one. Not sure where. Don't think
Yeah.
it's going to be high as some people would like, as maybe I would like. But I think probably third, fourth round, you're going to see a receiver come off the board for the Jaguars.
Okay, so we can move to the NFL draft now, and you're definitely a draft guy, man. You every year you really go into the prospects, you put out your prospect rankings, you put out your mock drafts and all that. And I got to ask you, I guess what stands out about this draft versus just the last few drafts when it comes to like top end talent, also talent that you might find in the second, third round. I guess what are some of your thoughts about this draft compared to others?
Yeah, from a pass rush perspective, I think it's better than what we've seen the last couple of years. You don't have that elite guy at the top like Myles Garrett or Nick Bosa or Chase Young, but I would put the guys like Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, Jermaine Johnson right beneath that category or right beneath that tier of player. And you don't have the quarterbacks in this class that people are going to want to trade up for. You've seen some pre-draft press conferences where GMs are kind of talking about the Texans GM Nick Caserio. He's saying there's not much interest for number 3. The Lions GM said the same thing. So there's not really teams trying to trade up. So I wouldn't be holding my breath waiting for a trade out of the first overall pick for the Jaguars. It's late in the game. The hour is late for a trade back. I just don't really see it happening unless something crazy happens where 2 teams really want Malik Willis or something wild like that. I just don't see it happening. But so, yeah, you don't have that at the top. So it's a strange dichotomy because it's a draft where you would like to trade out of the first overall pick, but it's also a draft where because there's not that premium quarterback, it's difficult to trade out of the first overall pick.
Yeah.
It's a tough draft. At
No,
the
it's funny
top.
because people say like, "Oh, it's no one's worth the number one overall pick. We need to trade back." But it's like, well, if no one's worth the number one overall pick, why would teams want to trade up? It
Right.
sucks there's no quarterback there, but you almost wonder if there was a quarterback there at number one, would the Lions have found out a way to get that number one pick? I mean, I tend to think so.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't see Dan Campbell as a guy who's going to throw a game, but you know, they were a try hard team this year.
Yeah, they
Not a
were.
very talented
Maybe that's a
roster
bad
overall.
example.
Yeah, but
Maybe the Texans would have found out a way, but the Texans, they just can't find a way to lose to the Jaguars, so they're not going to get up there.
exactly.
Yeah. So
But in the second round, I think linebacker is a big possibility. I know a lot of people have talked about that lately, but you've had Christian Harris, Quay Walker, Chad Muma all in for visits. All of those guys could go in that range. And the Jaguars, let's face it, they released Miles Jack. They lost Damian Wilson in free agency. They didn't bring him back. And prayers out to his family, whatever's going on with him. And then they also just waived Dylan Moses, who obviously didn't make an impact in Jacksonville yet, but they moved on from that experiment, trying to rehab him. But so next to Foye Oluokun, you've only got Shaq Quarterman, who you could feel decent about at this point. And even that might be a reach because he's very inexperienced. He's not the most athletic linebacker in the world. I like his game. I think he has developed over the 2 years he's been in Jacksonville, but you probably want to bring in someone with a higher ceiling, higher level of athleticism and overall talent. Even though I do think Shaq Quarterman could start for you in a pinch, but it's looking like Quay Walker, if he doesn't go in the first round, like Doug Kyed said from PFF, their reporter over there, it could be Quay Walker. And I frankly do not see Quay Walker in that vein as a top of the second round type of player. I have him more late second, early third, and I would value Chad Muma certainly above him and several other linebacker prospects that the Jaguars have not really shown much interest in.
yeah. But I mean, if they're going to try to draft a linebacker with that second round pick, I mean, they've got to go offensive line with that first pick, man, because I can't imagine your first and second round picks both being on the defense when,
Yeah.
you have just, you need this offense to move forward. Like your franchise is number 16. I mean, if number 16 does not turn into a good quarterback, we're going to be stuck with where we've been the last decade, where we're maxing out at 6 wins and we're bottoming out at 2 wins. So, man, do you think that will affect it? Like, there's no way that they can go defense both round 1 or round 2, right?
I've talked about it. I wouldn't be shocked. I think it is going to depend on how the board falls. I don't think they're going into the draft saying, "Oh, we're going to take 2 defenders with our top 2 picks." But what if Devin Lloyd does fall out of the first round? He's a super talented linebacker. What if there's a pass rusher there that they really like after? Well, they probably wouldn't take a pass rusher after taking Aiden Hutchinson. So that's a bad example. But, would I be shocked if Trent Baalke fell in love with Lewis Seen, the Georgia safety, who's a heat-seeking missile? He's available at 33. That could certainly be an option. So, no, I wouldn't be shocked if they do it. I would understand the frustration of fans because you need to support Trevor Lawrence. You need to fortify the offensive line. You need to get better weapons. But the Jaguars, I think they look at what they've done over the last couple of years in terms of bringing in Brandon Scherf, tagging Cam Robinson, drafting Walker Little, signing all the receivers they've signed, signing Evan Ingram, trading for Dan Arnold. They've done a lot to bolster their offensive weapons, drafting Travis Etienne. They've done a lot. Is it enough? I'm not sure. I do think if they go defense with the first 2 picks, you would see offense come off the board hot and heavy over the next couple rounds.
Yeah. Steve Boston with a $5 donation. He says, 65 Alec Pierce or number 106 Taekwon Thornton. Both have a combo of size and speed, especially Thornton. They don't have to start rotate till next year. So I know Alec. I know these are both pretty popular names. They're both kind of, especially the last month or two, really rising. How would you rank these 2 prospects, and do you think they'd fit what the Jaguars do?
With the idea of drafting a receiver in the 3rd round or 4th round and saying they don't have to start, I would agree with you, to be completely honest. And I don't think the Jaguars would draft a receiver in the 3rd round or 4th round and expect them to start. I think if they did that, they'd be looking at Christian Kirk obviously being a starter, Marvin Jones being a starter, and probably Zay Jones or Laviska Shenault. But Alec Pierce, I think his skill set, he has the potential to be a quality starter in the NFL. I think in year 1, at the very least, he could be a deep ball specialist for you, where he has a good release off the line of scrimmage, very quick. He can kind of get to the outside by using a quick stutter step to the inside, break to the outside. He has really good hand usage to defeat press coverage. And he's got 4.4 speed. He's 6'3". He's got a 40-inch vert, got strong hands. I think if you're going to draft him at 65, he would be a quality pick at that spot. I have him as a mid-second round grade. I know that's a little higher than a lot of people are on Alec Pierce, but you look at the size, the ability to separate at the line of scrimmage, and the overall athletic profile and the ball skills, I could see why a team would value him as a potential starter. And then Taekwon Thornton, he's a speed demon. He's a guy who's a little bit more of a project, but he's a speed demon, knows how to win. I think Alec Pierce is more ready to contribute, but Thornton could have just as high of a ceiling, and you could get him potentially later on.
Yeah. And real quick, guys, I do want to plug Jordan's YouTube channel. I put it down in the description box. He's been pumping out just a lot of videos lately, trying to get on that YouTube game, which, it's always it's a good place to be at. Definitely love YouTube videos. So go subscribe to him. It's just Jinjag, right? That's just the channel name. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been pumping out Duval daily, pretty much daily. That's been the point.
That's been
just some quick content for people to get into and enjoy. I've been having a lot of fun doing it, and I think it's just something that has kind of been lacking in terms of just quick daily content. I know you put out a lot of quality videos, and those are also available on all the podcast networks, so you can just listen if you want to as well.
Yeah, I don't understand why more people don't do it, man. I think it's a missed opportunity. I know Because I know me, I listen to a lot of stuff while I'm like working or, doing stuff outside. It's just nice to kind of throw on a podcast. And, if you're reading an article, you kind of got to sit there and read it. So,
Yeah.
it's definitely missed opportunity, I feel like.
Yeah. And I know like T-Wig does a podcast every day, Locked On Jaguars.
Oh,
They
yeah,
do a
very
good
good.
job. But yeah, there's not as much content as there could be, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. So where are you leaning right now? Like what is your gut feeling on who goes number one overall and who would you take number one overall?
I think it's going to be Aiden Hutchinson still. I think everything they've done this offseason and said points to that. They didn't go sign any big money free agents at defensive end. They did bring in Arden Key, but Arden Key is a rotational player, rotational pass rusher at this point. And they've got Arden Key and DeJuan Smoot. Both of them are on 1-year deals at this point. They have expiring contracts. So, and then Josh Allen, they're going to have to make a decision in the coming days if they're going to pick up that 5th-year option. I would hope that they would, certainly, but he is technically going into the last year of his rookie deal if they don't pick up that 5th-year option. So you need pass rushers in the NFL. You've got to have a good pass rush to compete down the stretch, certainly to win in the playoffs. And I think Aiden Hutchinson, culture-wise, just fits exactly what Doug Peterson has been preaching about, which is getting in here, being positive, being a good teammate, being professional. I'm not going to sit here and say that Evan Neal wouldn't be professional, or Ike Mekwanu, or even Trayvon Walker, who I would say would be the second guy in line behind Aiden Hutchinson. I think Hutchinson is going to be a guy that can threaten with speed around the edge. He's very technically refined with his hand usage. He can layer moves and counters and really defeat a lot of different offensive tackles in a lot of different ways. I think he's going to be a good run defender. And I've comped him to Jared Allen, who I'm sure a lot of people remember. Both of these guys make some freaky plays in space. They're both big, tall guys with short arms that are technically refined and very athletic for their size.
Yeah. And because I know me, like I feel a lot, I guess, safer about Hutchinson because with a guy like Trayvon Walker, it just freaks me out when guys start really rising after a combine and guys don't really have all the numbers in college, but it's because they were part of like an all-world defense, and it just doesn't make me feel a lot better when it comes to, okay, this is this guy's raw ability. I don't know if that's worth drafting like at number one overall, especially from a team that like when the Jaguars have layups, they can hit them pretty well. I mean, Jalen Ramsey, layup. Josh Allen, layup.
Right.
I mean, even you can even count Trevor Lawrence in there. But when it comes to like advanced stuff, like, oh, let's bring in Dante Fowler Jr., that was, kind of a, raw ability type of move, or, a lot of the moves that, like Halevon Chase on a lot of this stuff. It's like, okay, raw ability. This guy can do a lot. We just have to coach him up. It scares me. That's why I feel a lot better about Aiden Hutchinson and his, and just like how the consensus just believes, because I always tell people this all the time. If the Jaguars just the first 2 days of the draft, if it was literally determined by like a Twitter fan vote, the Jaguars would be doing better than the general managers the last decade. And it's the truth. I mean, that's not exaggeration. So I don't know. I just feel a little bit better about Aiden Hutchinson if you're going to go that defensive end route.
Yeah, I think there's not the layup in this class at number one overall that maybe you've seen in the past. Like I said, there's no Myles Garrett or Chase Young. But if you were going to look at guys in this class that could be layups that are feeling very safe, I do think Aiden Hutchinson is in that boat. I think Evan Neal is in that boat. I even think Kyle Hamilton, who obviously is not going to go at number one overall as a safety, is in that boat. And I would say Ike Mekwanu, who, if the Jaguars do go offensive line, it's looking like that's who it would be. I don't think he's safe. He certainly is projectable, especially into a wide zone rushing attack where you get your offensive tackle out moving in space. He's going to just destroy people, but I worry about the pass protection. And that's the same thing. I worry about the passing game impact from Trayvon Walker. I know he's going to be good against the run. I know he's going to set a hard edge. I know he's going to make splash plays now and then because he's a better athlete than everyone else on the field. But where's the pass rush plan? Where's the pass rush toolbox? Where's the evidence of that? It's all projection. And I think Ekwonu is a little bit less projection. He has developed as a pass protector, but it's still raw. You still saw him get taken advantage of by some talented guys. There's high-level reps from Ekwonu in pass protection, but it's far too inconsistent for me. And so when you look at layups, I think Aiden Hutchinson and Evan Neal are the easiest layups in this class. I would be shocked if they are not good pros.
Yeah. And the thing that's a little bit scary is that it feels like there's a lot of divide right now. I know we're hearing that Trent Baalke really wants to move back, and if Baalke stays there at 1, he probably wants to pick Trayvon Walker. However, you're hearing like Mike Caldwell and the outside linebackers coach kind of prefers Aiden Hutchinson over Walker, and then you're hearing that Doug Peterson prefers Ike Ekwonu. So and even Shad Khan apparently prefers Aiden Hutchinson. So there's a lot of different things being spoken of out there, and I wonder what is ultimately decided. I wonder if the GM gets his choice, or if the GM, because one real knock on Trent Baalke was like back when he was in the 49ers, he didn't really listen to the coaches. Like, he didn't ask the coaches what kind of players they wanted. He didn't go out there and kind of get their opinions on stuff. He would just draft guys and kind of be like, okay, here's your players. I wonder if he gets input, if a defensive coordinator, Mike Caldwell, says, look, I like this guy a whole lot better than this guy. You wonder what Trent Baalke will wind up doing.
Yeah, you do. And I would hope that at this point, 1 week out from the draft, the Jaguars know who they're picking at 1. Sure, you can be open to trading down, and then in that situation, you'll have to adjust on the fly. But I don't see that happening. You can be prepared for it, even though it's unlikely. But if you're going to stick at 1 and make your pick, you've had months to prepare for this. How do you not know who the pick is right now as an organization? They absolutely should know who the pick is. I'm guessing they do, and I'm guessing it's Aiden Hutchinson. But my thought is maybe some of the stuff coming out from like Dilla and other sources is more about there's little snippets of things that are coming out. Sure, an offensive coach that likes to run a wide zone rushing attack wants to get an offensive lineman that can get out and move. Sure, I get that. Trent Baalke loves the traits, loves the athleticism. I get that. But are they really undecided at this point? That's hard for me to fathom.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully it's not a case where, look, if the draft was tonight, they'd be drafting a different guy than if the draft was next week, or
Right.
if the draft was 2 weeks ago. I mean, you hope, that's not the case, but it just kind of, it's the same thing with like experts out there and analysts. Everybody has a different number 1. So there's no way everybody within the building can be locked in that, there's a consensus number 1 guy. It just, it doesn't really seem to work that way. So, I know a big thing with me, like, I think it'd be like excellent if the Jaguars can really find a receiver in the second round. And I know there's a lot of good receivers, but the question is, how many receivers go in the first round? I mean, there's a legit chance that 25% of the first round is wide receivers, just because like nowadays receivers want to get paid. And you have the Chiefs drafting right before us. You have the Green Bay Packers drafting right before us. And, you see teams now, like maybe they don't want to pay the receivers. They had to draft the receivers, and receivers are, becoming a bigger necessity every single season with the way the NFL is trending. And I guess my question's for you, like, how many receivers do you think get drafted in the first round? And do you think ultimately the Jaguars will wind up taking the guy at number 33?
Yeah, I think Garrett Wilson, Jamison Williams, Drake London, Chris Olave, Jahan Dotson, Treylon Burks. I think that's 6 guys. I think they're locks for the first round. I wouldn't be completely shocked if Dotson or Burks fell out of the first round. But I think, like you said, with all the teams that need receivers, with all the teams that realize what's happening with the market, where basically if you have a quarterback that's making top dollar, you're not going to be able to afford to have a receiver making top dollar as well. Or if you do, you're going to be lacking in other areas of your roster. And you'd rather just attack the draft because, quite frankly, the draft has been putting out a lot of really good receiver talent over the last few years. And it's been beyond the first and second and third round, even. It's been on day 3 as well, where you've been seeing some of these guys come in. So the fact that you can get receiver talent throughout the draft, that might help the Jaguars. And because this is perceived as a deep receiver class, that might help the Jaguars. It might allow some teams in the first round to say, well, we can hold off and get somebody we think can be a starter down the road a little bit later on. That could help. But like I said, I think those 6 guys are going to go in the first round. Would not be shocked if George Pickens sneaks his way into there, even though what I've heard from guys like Tony Pauline and others is that the NFL is a little bit lower on George Pickens than some of the media. So that could be good for the Jaguars. But I wouldn't be surprised if Sky Moore out of Western Michigan finds his way into the first round. He's a little undersized, well, very undersized, but unbelievable release package and route running from him. So he's a guy that I value pretty highly as well. But do I think they're going to take the receiver at 33? I think it would have to be a situation where one of the top 6 falls out of the first round, like maybe Treylon Burks or Jahan Dotson. I personally would value George Pickens at 33. If that's the way they went, I would value that. I would be okay with that. Would get my stamp of approval. But at this point, I would not predict them taking a wide receiver at 33.
Yeah, I mean, I just, much like how a defensive end like Aiden Hutchinson might unlock the defense where Josh Allen starts to play better, once both of them get in there, it might force more interceptions for the back 7. It feels like getting a true alpha number 1 would really unlock the potential of the offense. I mean, not only for Trevor Lawrence, but it's going to help Christian Kirk be able to do what, he does a lot better from the slot. And one thing I remember Blake Bortles, his sophomore year, he had like 35 touchdowns and like I think 3,500 yards. I mean, he just, there were plays where he said, I'm throwing this ball to Al Robinson and Al Robinson is going to catch it. I mean, was there anybody on the Jaguars last year that Trevor Lawrence could say that he could do that? I mean, there were games where Marvin Lewis stepped up and did some good things. I mean, Laquan Treadwell, he would be in position, but he would just flat out drop it. And there was just nobody that was sure-handed. And man, like George Pickens just looks like he can really be that alpha number 1. He makes, really good contested catches. He's physical. I mean, bringing something like that guy in, I know he's not the, the fastest guy out there, but, man, like I think
4.47 at 6'3" is nothing to scoff at.
Oh, was he 4.47? Okay.
Yeah, especially less than a year after tearing your ACL.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, he looks damn good to me. I mean, he looks like he's very well worth that spot. I don't know where draft people have him at, but man, like if we're sitting there on Friday morning and I see him there at number 33, it's going to be hard for me not thinking about that guy in the back of my head all day.
Yeah, I think the question with him is because injuries, pretty much ruined his 2021 season. Where is the development? I think some NFL teams are asking, but there's going to be guys in the first round that lack development, right?
Yeah.
I mean, George Pickens, you've seen it. He has the ability to dominate. He's 6'3", runs in the 4.4s. He's a twitchy athlete. He's really good at the catch point, really strong hands. He has an alpha mentality. He'll blow you up as a blocker. You love to see that. I don't. If the reason George Pickens falls out of the first round is because they're worried about his development, there's plenty of guys in this class that are going to go ahead of him that are underdeveloped, in my opinion. So I don't really see that. As long as his head is screwed on straight and he's a hard worker, a team first guy, which of course we're not really privy to all that information. But as long as the Jaguars have vetted him, they feel comfortable with him fitting into that culture. I would sign up for George Pickens at 33 all day. And of course, that's depending on who is available. Like what I did earlier in my mock draft was I took Devin Lloyd at 33, and then I traded back up into the middle of the second round, and I took George Pickens right there.
Yeah. So what do you think? Over under 1.5 Georgia Bulldogs drafted by the Jaguars. Where are you going?
That's a great question. Will they be able to? Because like a lot of these guys are going in the first round.
Yeah.
Devontae Wyatt, Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean, I think is still going to go in the first round, even though some people have him falling out. Quay Walker could go in the first round. Lewis Seen could go in the first round. So then your pool is dwindling there, but you still have Jamari Salyer, the offensive lineman that you could take. You still have George Pickens. You'd still have Quay Walker. Still have Darian Kendrick. I'll go with 1. I'm going to say under, but it could easily be over.
Yeah, I mean, it
Channing
could be over in
Tindall
the
as
first
well,
33 selections.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're camping out at those Georgia Pro Days. And, hey, I'm not going to be mad if we come away with some Georgia Bulldogs. I mean,
Yeah, it
just
literally
last
could
year, you
be
got
the top
Tyson
2
Campbell.
picks.
Yeah, it could be
For
the
the
top 2
Jags.
picks. Yeah.
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 And Quay Walker, I think, would be a similar pick to Tyson Campbell because they're not the same position. But, yeah, they're both out of Georgia, but they're both very athletic. They both have length, and they both have a little bit of question marks, right? And Trent Baalke just saw that ball of clay that Tyson Campbell was, and he made a great pick, in my opinion, at 33. It was a pick that I heavily criticized. You know, Tyson Campbell struggled at the catch point, you know, with the ball skills, with the ability to locate and make a play on the ball, but he improved on that, you know, big time throughout the course of his rookie season. And I think if you look at Quay Walker, you look at Mike Caldwell, who's a former NFL linebacker, a former linebackers coach, who's now the defensive coordinator. Can he get the most out of somebody with that raw athleticism and length? Probably.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's a lot of us were skeptical of that, man. I know a lot of people at pick number 33, they did not want a cornerback. They're like, what the hell are we doing? And then, you know, they drafted him over guys like Asante Samuel, a bunch of guys that people were pretty high on. But, you know, you just got to hope with this Jaguars rookie class. I mean, they left off on a pretty high note, you know, whether it's Trevor Lawrence or Tyson Campbell or Walker Little, Andre Cisco. Let's just hope that they continue to progress because, you know, look, in order to be good, you got to have good draft classes, and you can't just sit here and rely on free agency to do all your work. So, yeah, let's
people
just
forget
hope.
about J2 Fele as well. I mean, that was a guy. If he had played in 2020, he didn't play because of COVID. He could have been easily an early day 2 pick. Jaguars got him at the top of day 3. So I still think that's a really exciting draft class to see what happens. And Travis Etienne, you haven't even seen yet on the field.
You know, it's funny. I was actually looking at some Travis Etienne stuff the other day, and I'm like, man, like this guy's got some, you know, agility and quickness. And I know a lot of us know that. I think a lot of people are just kind of tempering expectations just based on like, okay, how's Liz Frank going to do? And I know a lot of people I know a lot of Jags fans were in a situation of like expect the worst and hope for the best so we don't just get hurt. So, but yeah, I mean, he's electric. I mean, hopefully the Jaguars can find a way to use him. Obviously, you don't want to use him like Deebo, or else he's going to want to, you know, be on his way out. But joking on that. So I don't know.
He might like that. He's like, yeah, I'm a wide receiver.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm about to say he might convert to wide receiver. I don't want to be running. I don't want to be a running back. I want to. Yeah, it is crazy now.
We all want to be a wide receiver. Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy the discrepancies now when it comes to wide receiver shelf life and money versus running back. I mean, like just the fall of certain players like Todd Gurley, man. Just a few years ago, he was on top of this planet, and like he wasn't even on a team last year. And
yeah, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah,
you know, paying running backs is bad business. It's sad to say because they're some of the most fun and electric players to watch, and they can really put teams on their backs for stretches. But it's tough out there for running backs.
I mean, outside of Derrick Henry, and even Derrick Henry was hurt last year, it seems like whenever you pay a running back, they go downhill. I mean, it happened to Ezekiel Elliott. I don't know with with Alvin Kamara how much of it was him versus just maybe he needs a guy like Drew Brees in there to distribute the ball. Christian McCaffrey's been really hurt. It's man, it's just weird, and I like these guys to go out and get the most money that they can, but maybe they want to start doing some more running back by committees to allow them a little bit more shelf life.
For sure.
Yeah. But do you think, I guess with this draft, do you think any surprises happen with the Jaguars at any picks that we're going to come away scratching our heads at?
They're taking Malik Willis at 1.
Oh, man.
No, I think there probably will be some surprises. Like they traded up for Jordan Smith in the 4th round last year.
Yeah.
When I think there was more talented defensive end edge prospects that went a little bit later on. And that's nothing against Jordan Smith. He's a quality project to work on with his traits and length and all that. But yeah, I think you'll see at least one trade up for the Jaguars, which maybe that doesn't come as like a big surprise. They have 12 draft picks. I think you'll see a trade up on day 2. How about that? That's kind of a bold prediction. I think there will be a day 2 trade up, whether it be in the 2nd or 3rd round.
Yeah, I mean really day 2 of the draft might be more important than day 1. I mean, you have 3 day 2 picks, and man, if you can capitalize on that, get some good guys, and heck, I mean, now like the Jaguars are clearly more aggressive this year than last year when it comes to like free agency. Maybe they tried to more in a draft too, because last year the Jaguars had a bunch of draft picks. They're like, okay, they have these draft picks, but there's no way they use them all. But they didn't do any moving.
Jalen Camp can't even make the roster.
They did a little moving. Yeah. Jalen Camp didn't make the roster, and and they did trade up. Actually, why did I think they didn't trade up? Maybe that was 2020, but yeah, they did trade up to get Jordan Davis, and we're yet to see on him. I was on the bandwagon of like, let's just like make Chason inactive for a game and just see what Jordan Davis can do. And I know I think he had played 2 games or something last year, but I don't know. Do you think Chason is a lost cause at this point?
I wouldn't give up on him, but they really need to rehab whatever's been going on. At the end of 2020, his rookie year, he looked like he was coming on a little bit, starting to be able to get into the backfield and create some pressure. He looked lost last year, man.
I know, man. It was like the Taven Bryan thing where it was like there'd be guys in front of him and like he like wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah. And I don't know if that was just a product of the situation, of the distractions that were going on. Like you can look at a lot of Jaguars players' performances in 2021 and just be like, that guy is more talented than what you saw.
Yeah.
I think Kayvon Chason is more talented than what you saw. But can you rely on him to be a big-time contributor? I'm not sure, but I would really, really focus on, if I was defensive coordinator, if I was that position coach, Brinson Buckner, figure out what this kid can do well and let him do that and try to get him back on track, because there is talent within him to be more of an impact than he currently is, to at least be an effective rotational player. He's not even that at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know we're coming up on the end of this this live stream here. I appreciate Jordan for coming on here with me today. I know. Are you gonna how do you do mock drafts? Do you do 1.0, 2.0? Is there like a final mock draft we should be on the lookout for over on JimJag.com?
Yeah, today the Duval Daily was my final what I would do mock draft. So it's not at all predictive. It's just what I would do. I like to compare that to what the Jaguars do. You look back at it and be like, wow, if they would have just done what I wanted them to do, they'd be fine right now. But I will also do a final predictive mock, which will probably it'll be either Wednesday or Thursday of next week, either the day before the draft or actually on draft day. I'm not sure yet. We'll just see how the schedule plays out. yeah, you can look for it next Wednesday or Thursday, genjag.com.
All right, and I put all of Jordan's info down below. Follow him on Twitter at Jordan Lugo. You guys might not find me on Twitter for a few days. I might go into a little bit of hiding. I also put his YouTube channel down below. That's just Jinjag. I'll put the link there. Daily videos. He's gonna be passing me in subscribers here soon, so it's gonna be
I don't know about that.
Gonna be a little bit of a race here, but it's good to see Jordan joining the Jaguars YouTube fandom or whatever we call ourselves. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining. We had a solid 200 to 250 people in here, just trying to boost up my clout a little bit today. Clearly
clout chasing, baby.
Yeah, clout chasing, trying to be famous, one clickbait tweet at a time. That's all I gotta say. But all right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Go Jags.